It all starts in the 9 hells where the strongest demons meet in the depths of hell. In the 9th hell there is an endless fight to determine who is the strongest demon, for example the great demon Garkas versus the great demon Bala. Here in an amazing fight the great demon Balak ended up winning that meeting. In the midst of the endless struggle it was assumed that there was no eternal ruler until the appearance of the demon king. Then we find ourselves in a castle where the demon king was the apex of all the demons Balakla. He asks why he wants to return to earth if he already has all of hell, and in that, frightened, he remembers the power of the gluttony of the demon king with which he absorbed all the power and body of the demons. He was able to defeat the 7 princes of hell which were very powerful to kill each other, but the demon king with his power consumed the demons of hell. The demon king tells him he doesn't have everything and tells him he's been to hell for more than 10,000 years seeing how there was slaughter every day. The angry demon king asked if there was a way to that he has everything by taking off his mask and giving us his name, which was Bullet Tango. That when he thinks that he dies of hungry for curiosity gives him a meal with a very ugly and big octopus, but Field throws it in his face since he didn't want to eat that. He said he wanted to eat a food called kimchige in hell to think it's a dish from the hell they wanted to do it with demons, disappointing the Field because they did not know what that was. Balak tells him that he should to be satisfied by killing the 7 princes of hell, but Kango wanted to satisfy himself by reading light novels and manhwas. Balakal, not being able to serve his king, asks him to kill him, but Campo tells him that at least he wanted someone to kill him. In that comes Lilith, the queen of the succubi, who was also the greatest beauty in hell, and with her face horrible asks her if she is not enough for him. But just by looking at this face we can see that he did not want nothing with Lilith, and this because Lilith did not have the form of a beautiful field lady with more desire. Tells the demons that he wants to return to earth, alerting the demons, and he was only confirming it since he fulfilled the requirements to return to the field earth. After all the achievements he got in hell he was ready to receive his reward for spending 10,000 years in hell, and orders Balak to prepare a thing, to which he called as that. Balak did not want to do it, but Kango tells him not to repeat it twice, and Bala with fear orders the demons to call and prepare the armors of the 7 princes of hell. Amun begins to do a ritual in front of the armor and Bullet that tells Kango that the preparations were complete. These 2 very sad did not want their king to leave, and Field as he is entering Amun tells him that if he puts a lot of power in the armors of the 7 princes could twist the limits of time and dimension, will also forcefully create a crack in the dimension, and Field tells him to start, since with that he will finally be able to return to the field land. With his overwhelming magic manages to open the myriad of demons, and with that makes the armors of the 7 react princes, implying that the door was going to open soon. When the door finally opened, Field decides to enter, remembering that on earth he has no family or friends, but as long as he is not in hell, he was not going to accept. Lilith gets to cry when he sees him leave, and Kango tells her not to cry, but it was not to cheer her up, but because he was afraid of the Field. With very afraid he sees that Lilith wanted to unite with him, so he decides to run away from hell faster. By going down, he comes to a place where he wonders what was in front of him, but that thing begins to say that a nuclear rift had been detected, then mentions that the Gaia system dimensional defense mechanism was operating, and a danger message appears where it said that the power of the core is stronger than the field capacity is not. I knew what was happening, and in that a window appears mentioning that the Gaia system was reaching a state of overload. Then something hits the field body with which it screams in pain, and that thing said that the exclusion complete in the core rift was considered impossible, so that thing decides something called limited seal, and very angry Field wanted to destroy that thing, but he ends up fainting when he can't stand that pain. When he wakes up, finds himself in a forest wondering if he had already reached earth, but first decides to check if his body he was fine with that. In front of him a status window appears where he sees that it is a level 1, and in the description it was that most of his powers were sealed. Hearing something behind him turn out to be goblins, and seeing that, he was wondering if he was on Earth, since the land he knew there was no creature, so Field decides to get rid of them first, but he realized that his magic was weak, so having no other option he used a skill cutting to the goblins. And 2, when you are killing the goblins a window appears mentioning that you are defeating goblins, gaining experience, getting his life up to level 4 at the end. He wonders what those monsters were, and also what it was those experience points. Since he can physically feel it getting stronger, he decides decides to collect data on that place using his ability to absorb them, but he only gets data about the goblins and not from that world. And in the window mentions that his magic stat is increased by 1 point. He is surprised since magic only it should exist in hell, so the probability that it is not Earth is very high, and I was already scared that the only reason he survived in hell was to return to Earth, in that he hears a scream from behind away and decides to run to see him since that sound was that of a human being and he was asking for it to be a human being. Although this was ugly, Kango manages to see the person where, when he sees her, well, it turns out to be a girl, putting it very happy because she finally saw a human being, and to help defeat all the goblins around her, the girl, he presents her as Hanseo, thanking her for having saved her, and when she touches her hand, she becomes very happy, very happy. He asks her to marry him, surprising Hans there, but then he apologizes for that. Hansel, being hurt, doesn't. He could walk very well wherein that a smartphone falls, and when he sees that, he is convinced that he is in the Earth, seeing that this wound is going to give him first aid. He is also happy to be able to speak Korean for communicate with her and was able to remember the language since in hell, she ordered the demons to speak in Korean. Kanjo, upon finishing applying first aid, gives him the cell phone, surprising himself since it was the year 2023, 5 years after he fell into hell. Since he doesn't know anything about that world, he decides to obtain information and he asks her why she was in that kind of dangerous situation. She tells him that she was doing the House of the Lonely Door since he woke up as a player and wondering what he was saying. He asks what it was. His level. Hanseo tells him that he was at level 6 and asks him what his level was, but Kango, knowing that he has less level than she, avoids that question. When she collides a little with him, very embarrassed, she stops to leave, but as his wound had not yet healed, Camp decides to accompany her to her destination. He was very happy since he is behaving like a normal human being because Hansel doesn't suspect him, so he decides to adapt to terrestrial society. After so much walking, they arrive at their destination, surprising Kango when he sees that thing, wondering if it was a door. When he sees that it was a space crack, he again thinks that he was not completely on Earth, and when he sees around him, he does not. He saw no weapon that could create that crack, wondering how can you keep that big thing going across. The door sees many humans cheering him up, as he will never again have to see demons with hideous tentacles. As a thank you, Hanseo invites Kango to eat at his house, making him very happy since he was getting the spring, but in that 2 officers appear who ask for their player card, and since Cancun does not, had one use his power of oblivion ability to make them believe he had a player card. After that, they leave to Hansel's apartment, where when he was entering the field he thought that from that day on his future was going to be very happy. At arriving at Hansel's apartment, he finds his mother disappointing Campo since she thought he was going to have action. When the lady found out that she saved her daughter, as a thank you she was going to prepare a meal for her, and in that she remembers that he must get information from his current world, so he asks Hansel to lend him his cell phone, as was dragged to hell 5 years ago. Decides first find articles from the news of the year 2018. On 22 February 2018 was named the day of the cataclysm, as monsters appeared from doors that appeared out of nowhere. All weapons were useless against the monsters, and under the leadership of America, a world organization of emergency operations in Korea was the 9th country to join. The first player appeared in America, but his name was unknown identity, and thus more players arose who were the hope of humanity. As to see that, remember that February 22, 2018 was the day he fell into hell. He asks if he was caught in one of the opening doors, but decides to find out more since most of those items were only assumptions, in that the lady puts the food in front of him, making him very happy since the first thing that he is going to eat skins, and the 2 are surprised to see how he cried when he was eating that he did, since when he fell into hell he accepted the demonic energy to survive there, becoming a being almost close to a demon, but due to his humanity his taste buds and appetite could never be satisfied with food from the hell, since the demons you ate had to waste every year. He was going crazy for repeating that every day, but he stayed alive since his only wish was to return to Earth. Field thanks him for giving her that delicious food, but Hanseo tells her that she should thank him for saving her. He asks another plate, making Hansel very happy, but in that someone destroys the door, and it was Hansel's brother called El, who complains to Hansel for having entered the door. She tells him to leave since she has become a player, but this makes him angry since a low-level player is being called a player. Very scared, he only insults her, and he decides to take the guild by force. Andres, not wanting to go, bites his hand causing Taejing to hit her, and orders her to come with him to return an offering, but the mother intervenes telling her to take her Tae and hits her, throwing her to the ground and tells her Hansel not to mess with him since he is a level 2 human meta, and he begins to insult her by grabbing her by the neck and that. Next to him he sees Kango eating very happy and angry to see that he hits the table throwing his food field very sad. He starts crying for his food and one wanted to hit him, but very angry he wanted to kill him for having thrown away his precious one. Little decides to attack him with his power, but Hansel intervenes blocking the attack for Kango to escape, but he hits him with a fast speed with an angry blow. He was going to hit him with everything, but Campo feigns hitting him again many times until he leaves him on the ground. Cancun tells him that he is still at time to pay for his kimchi. He asks him why he behaves like this if he only lost one simple plate food field. Seeing that simple plate of food begins its revenge by making him praise the kimchi sigi while punching him in the face multiple times like this. After so much praise calms down and asks Taehyuna to fix all the mess he made in the house. Kango tells him that he was lucky when being able to sleep, eat, breathe calmly since he will never understand how blessed he was and advises him to try to live with peace of mind, but Taehyun deep down he plans to take revenge on him since he will inform his guild about it by telling him to leave. I approach him and mention that I do not deserve to leave him alive since he is never going to do the right thing. Field decides that he is not going to kill him, but activates an ability of a demon called the Power of Fear, with which he instills enormous fear within Tae. and Kango warns him not to talk about what happened in the house, and by recording a fear that will never go away. Undo also made him his slave. Hanseo hello far away was grateful since Kankola saved again, and when he is thinking about something else, he sees that he needs to get money for that. He sees that in magic stones that can be sold when killing monsters, and he asks Hansel for his magic stones. He heard that the darker the magic stone is, his rank will be higher, but when he held it he did not feel magic, and although he felt something that was not magic since when he felt the magic he thought that the magic stone would have magic inside the field. He wonders what is inside the magic stones because what he feels is a different type of energy called magic. He also wonders where it comes from, demonic energy, but decides to leave it for now since he first needs to earn money for that. He asks Hansel where there is a help center for players, and she tells him that in Seoul and how she also goes to that place. She is going to accompany him as a thank you. She also went before since she tried to earn money and entered preventively at the door, but thanks to the field he learned his lesson. That's why he also wants to learn the basics to try to unlock her second awakening, and Kango tells her that he will make it, but he still had no intention of helping her since when he is with her his efficiency the house decreases. So although it sounds harsh, he needs to ignore everything to concentrate and recover his powers since upon returning to Earth after having lived 10,000 years, you need to get stronger to survive like you did in hell, as Field did not have a card identification. Go to a town hall to get a spare one. But there he realized that in the 5 years that passed they did not put him on the list of missing persons. This made him sad, since in those 5 years no one realized that he was missing. After several hours they arrive at the station of the offices of management of players in Seoul, surprising the field since it was very big. Hanseo gives him his old phone so that they are communicated, making the field very happy, and they separate since they have things to do when they enter the offices. First you will get a waiting ticket, and when you get it the machine tells you to go to a test room, and in the test room everyone was talking about the rank they got, and that they talk about the 5 guild masters who got an S rank on the first try. In the test room hearing that he sees that the 5 masters of the guild was called Red Rose Guild fell of the guild announcement of the Nuri Guild. Each guild was created by the top 5 ranks of Korea, and you already know that they are. He will meet them in the future when he is getting his powers back. He decides to get his strength back fast by planning become a player to see if maybe he can become stronger than before. After waiting so long it is his turn to enter, where first they make him touch a ball which power is applied on it will show a color. According to its range, the more saturated the color the higher it will be its range and field. With an arrogant tone it puts between quotes a bit of his power. When he finishes shining the girl tells him that he is a rank F, surprising the field since he does not. That was expected, and the girl tells him that he can enter doors of the same rank. If he wants to enter doors of higher rank, Rango will have to be with a guardian, and he very annoyed asks her what to do to level up fast. She tells him that you can a basic course that can take you quickly to rank a Ode, or the other method which was to process the stones. Magical. The girl to help him tells him that she is going to enroll him in a basic course while he is waiting for his credit card. Player, and seeing him like this, He thought that better should give up being a player, in that he sees that the sphere was being made black, and when she wants to touch it, it ends up breaking. She does not believe that she saw the black sphere since even a rank that had only a dark gray, and when he went to a door, he saw how many players were recruiting. People being surprised since they are rejecting the thieves when entering the door calms down since he thought he was going to do the same thing as hell, and in that on his back this guy asks him if he is an F-rank. Kango says yes. He guy named Tae only invites you to join his group since it will be much better to hunt in a group than just him telling you no. He wants to join, but he is not listening to that, welcoming him to his group, and Field thanks him for inviting him to his group, but he tells him that he already had plans when he understood it. He tells him to be careful since they are in territory of the goblins and you must be careful of the hockey because it is a monster from another level. Field thanks you for the advice, saying goodbye to them, and when starting with his speed, he finds the goblins very easy once inside. He starts killing all the goblins with a skill creating a blade, and then he was very tired since he killed many goblins in that a window mentions that by defeating the goblins, he increased his level 4 times more, and also the demonic energy had risen a level, surprising him since he did not expect that when confirming that the magical stones do not possess demonic energy with its power of gluttony. It begins to absorb the goblins. When absorbing them, he feels demonic energy, but it did not come from the magical stones. He can feel it throughout his body, and he realizes that if he consumes freshly killed monsters, he can get demonic energy to grow faster by collecting the stones. He plans to sell them to take Hansel to eat when they leave the door. In that owl hearing noise, he turns his head, and it turns out to be the one who, when he sees Kango, begins to attack him. He is already surprised, who sees that the Joblin could use magic, but calms down and saw that his demonic power was stronger than that of the butt. The problem was the difference in strength, which was very large due to their bodies. Cancun, angry, manages to get rid of to hit the job goblin, but he protects himself with his shield, making him go back. Field he sees that his statistics, they were going down, so you must move back to block their attacks while you look for a gap to attack him. Field is surprised by the Hockling since it was by far better than the other goblins, but for him, it was only his prey, and throwing a goblin head at him makes the Jojubin angry as he is getting closer. Kango was also angry at what he was saying. Gathering overwhelming force, used the power of a demon, the power of fury. After the blow, the hot goblin was still attacking him with his weapon, destroying his own territory, but he was going crazy, having a lot of power, destroying everything, but the loss of rationality of the was one because it could dodge the attacks easier and create many holes to be able to attack him, so he begins to hit him several times, starting to put the hot goblin on the floor, and after the final blow he manages to defeat the field hobgoblin. He feels disappointed because if he had his true powers everything would have ended faster, and in that a window appears in front of him. This window, for having defeated the final boss, gives various rewards and unlocks his second awakening when you reach level 11. Then you also unlock your second special ability of awakening the second ability was insatiable hunger, which had the effect of absorbing demonic energy from defeated objects through gluttony. That makes him happy because although it is not a powerful ability with that he can absorb more demonic energy. To test his new ability, he tests it by absorbing the Hocket, surprising him to see that his smoke was darker, and when the hunger is activated, Insatiable begins to absorb more demonic energy. Upon seeing its energy, the demonic girl is surprised because it was 3 times bigger than what she expected and wonders what increases her power so fast. Demonic energy. Kanjo, having an idea of what is happening, enters the gate of the myriad of demons in where he realizes that he was weakening by putting together everything he knows. He realizes that every time he unlock an awakening, the gate of myriad demons will be weakened, and think to continue awakening to be able to recover his true powers by picking up the magic stone. His next objective is proposed, which was the third. Wake up at level 20. After that he went with Hansen or eat in a restaurant where when talking, Hanseo asks him if he has family or friends. Campo tells him that he doesn't have anyone. He didn't even have a house where to live, and Hansel, seeing how he is, offers him to live in his house as a thank you for everything he has done by her. He accepts that, but since he doesn't want to be free, he gives her an envelope with 3 million, but she didn't want to accept it since the field help always tells you to accept it since it knows that you are going through financial problems, and she accepts by promising to prepare a better kimchi gigi every day. Christ cheers Kango, which changing the subject, he asks her where there is a Rango de door, and she tells him that there is one nearby, but it was full of lizardmen. He plans to go the next day to unlock another awakening by defeating more monsters strong and also get money doing that. After defeating the final boss of the door, goes home from Hansel where she gives him a room so he can live there when he goes to sleep. I was happy because of how comfortable it was. It was the bed since he forgot about that luxury in hell. and while he slept he told himself that he was happy to have returned to Earth after several field days. He arrives at Rango to being able to enter the Rango to door whereat remember what Hanseo Light said to his power of silence, this because Hanseo had told him that the lizardmen were sensitive to sound and they had to attack them silently because if not all of them attack at once. The weakness of the lizardmen was the fire, so when finding lizardmen he uses power of the infernal fire with which he achieves defeating the lizardmen. Their hellfire could not rise as a normal fire as it needs demonic energy or magical power to put it out. The infernal fire does not burn his physical body but his vital force, and with that he leaves the corpse to be able to use the Gula ability. But in that remember the Taehyun is in a guild called Andra's Field. He wonders where they got that name from but decides to leave it and thinks that if things don't work out you can just destroy everything in that. Behind him many lizardmen appear, but Kango instead of being scared he gets happy where with his hellfire and regular power he defeats all the lizardmen as they all became noisy, and knowing that more lizardmen can arrive decides to end everything faster in that the window tells him that he has gone up a level, but this disappoints him since he went up in rank he is not progressing much field. To solve that he plans to hunt together, but a group appears that when they saw the field team thought that he was a beginner. They invite him to join their home guild upon seeing him weak and field before deciding to account for what union they are, and they very arrogantly tell him that they are from the union. Andres Campo tells him not to leave the place doing angering the Anthrax members by seeing an arrogant beginner. They decide that later they are going to beat him up, leave him half dead since it's been a long time since they haven't been able to relieve his stress after a while had consumed all the lizardmen it had found, and that's when the group of the Andres guild arrives in where he tells Kango that he is following him to see that he is hunting well. Cancun tells him not to worry since he is hunting well, but he joins and tells him that he has not been hunting because there is no corpse around him. Field mentions that he was just taking a break pissing off a bay since he's not respecting him as his superior. Another member wanted to attack him, but Zion Baez stops him saying that he plans to teach him something, and seeing him confident that once upon a time he thought he was only rank B as he goes when he takes out a sword, he begins to make noise when hitting his armor, telling Kango that the lizardmen were sensitive to the field, and knowing that he was not afraid, and the Andras Guild group, seeing that the lizardmen were approaching, prepare magical barriers to be able to protect himself. As a dance ask how he plans to save himself because judging by the sound many lizardmen will come. Campo laughingly tells them that he was disappointed with their plan, so to make it more interesting he uses his power of sound making a lot of noise to attract more lizardmen. Joins calling the psychopaths tells him to stop, but Field kept making noise to call more lizardmen. After that many men appear on top of them, lizards scaring the guild group. You walk since they have never fought many monsters. He goes angry yells at Kango who must not have made much noise since he called many lizardmen, but Kangaroo tells him that already I knew that the lizardmen began to attack them and I blamed it on the field because they are all going to die. But he tells them that only they are going to die by activating the power of silence on them. Lizardmen do not attack Kango as he does not feel scared, and he, seeing that the barrier is about to break, orders the others to activate another barrier, but most of them had already been killed by the lizardmen, and Baez, knowing that he can't do anything, asks Kango for help while apologizing. Campo only encourages him so that he doesn't die, making Abe angry, but it was too late to complain because the lizardmen end up killing him. Field at laughingly, he mentions that if they fight with murderous intent, he will attack them with more murderous intent. After that he defeats all the lizardmen with his hellfire and then uses gluttony to consume all of them. Those bodies, and in that the system tells him that he could not use Gula against those protected by the Gaia Campo Al system. See that remember what happened when you were returning to Earth, and see that the players are protected by the Gaia system so you won't be able to consume them to get your special abilities, but you don't care since he consumed a lot of demonic energy from the lizardmen. With that he was able to increase his demonic energy significantly in compared to, but not only the quantity, but also the quality of demonic energy had gone up now. He just has to level up, so as he was leaving he was excited to see that very soon he will have a third wake up. Then 3 days pass where in the house Hanseo tells her not to push herself too hard since she has been going to the door every day without resting. Field tells him that he will be fine and asks him when his classes finish, and she tells him that in a few days since in the last days they are going to go hunting goblins with that she wanted to get her second awakening. And changing the subject she tells him that there were rumors that cow players have appeared inside the doors. A cow player is a person who hides his range to attack players, and Field thought he was talking about the guild group, then he thinks it's not them since they're probably talking about him, but he couldn't be so sure about that, so he thinks he should prepare for the unknown and focus on climbing up. Fast level on that. When you get to level 20, a window tells you that the third awakening feature has been unlocked. That ability surprises him as it increased his magic significantly, and he tests his most powerful magic using hellfire. Each time he awakens, the seal on the door myriad of demons weakens, causing it to leak more demonic energy, and in that the third ability of the third awakening is activated. This is called the demon that desires the magic, which can absorb magic from inside magic stones, turning it into demonic energy. Before continuing with the video, do not forget to comment, like and subscribe, since that is the best way to support the channel. If you like this type of summary, in the description I leave you more summaries so you can see them after this video. When testing that ability is surprised, since it can absorb as much magical energy as if it killed a monster. With that ability will be able to grow twice as fast, but will have to give up earning money by selling the magic stones, and accepts it since he got a little money in the days he worked tirelessly. How will he have free time by not going to sell the magic stones to use your skill a little more to improve Kango faster? Using the power of heaven, he manages to fly, and from there he thinks to search for the chief of the lizardmen to absorb a stone. Higher ranking magic, and that hears the voice of Tiso, which was having a problem with these two guys in field to the approaching. He wondered what that thief class person lying on the ground was doing, complaining to those two for having attacked a member of their own group, and the two upset thought to lure the lizardman field Vegeta that was betrayed, and the rumored players were actually those two people. One starts attacking Tiso, causing him to back up, surprising the guy to see that Tiso was able to resist his attack, and Tiso, using more force, does not think giving up so easily. The other congratulates him because he had awakened a higher rank special ability, but since it wasn't his third awakening, could not beat them, and the guy thinks of attacking him, but they couldn't get to kill him. Field wonders because they can't kill him, and he had doubts if he should help him or not. But when he saw demonic energy and a weapon of the guy stands in front of them, Calculus asks who they are, but they just make fun of him when they see that he is a beginner, and they plan to kill Kango because they already fulfilled their quota, which was to kidnap Ties today. A thief very fast guy approaches to kill Kango, but with a single slap he sends him flying. The other asks him what it had happened, but before he can answer, Kango stands in front of the guy, starting to hit him several times. The other one approaches, knowing that his partner could die, but Campo with his art of destruction ability sends him flying, leaving him badly wounded. Campo, raising his head, asks where he got the demonic energy from, and the guy asks how he knows that, but Kango, hitting him, tells him that only he asks the questions. The guy, even if he hits him, he won't tell him who gave him the demonic energy, but Kango uses his power of fear ability to make him confess. The very upset guy, he begins to say that he was the leader of the guild, and the other told him that he shouldn't say that, but Bolt sends him flying so that he doesn't keep bothering him. He asks the name of his guild, and the guy tells him that he is from the Andras guild and his master had given him the demonic energy using a ritual. Field asks what ritual, but the guy doesn't. I wanted to tell him, so Campo again uses the power of fear to make him speak, but when he was about to confess, he ends up dying, and he thinks they put a device inside the guy so he won't talk about the rituals, where he then asks how he could defeat him if he was a rank and when he saw him, but Kango tells him that he is a rank superior who was watching Rango's door, and the two thanked Campo for having saved him and Soul. He assures that he will return the favor in the future after learning that the guild previously had the players out. I was planning to report it to the body, which is a unit of players under government control, to investigate the Andres guild. Immediately Kango tells him not to report anything since he is only going to take care of the Androsite guild, that he accepts since it is about the field, in that it is that kneeling. He tells him that he wants to accompany him on his trip since he has fallen in love with his sense of justice. Field, seeing him so rare, he compares him with Balak for how he behaves, and the other thanks him for his help, telling him that he will definitely repay his help in the future. Kanjo Al, seeing him well, remember that he was the thief class who could not join a group, and that is saying that it is fate proposes form a group between the three of them. The other appreciates that gesture, but for the moment wants to leave to become stronger already, that currently it would only be a burden for the two of them. Kango was half happy to have people who are in debt with him, but now he wonders what he will do. Tell him that, so he first asks him what his level is. That he tells him who is level 12, having his second awakening not too long ago, and the ability of his first awakening is Rango. See, his second special ability of his second awakening was Rango, surprising Kango since there is that he had a lot of potential than he thought. Kango asks him why he doesn't join a guild if it's very promising, and that's it. He tells him that he was still thinking of joining now that he met the field. He decided to follow him instead of joining a guild. Field decides to take him with him, since his third and fourth awakening can be of a very high rank, in that he also remembers that they have Seal is very soon to get his second awakening, so at the time of exchanging numbers, Campo asks for a favor that he level up with Hans, who was of the healing class, and at the end of the talk, T asks him if he is going to the Antraso guild, and then they skip a few minutes where we see Kango waking up the other guy who was called Kanchiel because he is going to ask him several questions. Field asks him because they wanted to capture Tiso and the other guy, but Kanchio tells him that he doesn't remember doing that. Kango kicks him in the face, sending him to fly and Kanch so that they do not continue hitting him. He tells him that they wanted to capture them to offer them as sacrifices, and in that field remember that Taehyun wanted to offer his sister as an offering. In that field he was. Something happens for which he asks Kanchio for a favor. After a while, we see Kanchio go to a place with a suitcase, and this guy asks him where his partner was. He tells him that they killed him. Where then, very scared, he gives him the sacrifice which was in the suitcase, and the guy asks him how he could die if they only went to a door of range of search. Tells him that there was a high rank player, so they could barely kill him. And when he opened the suitcase, the guy sees that the sacrifice was in perfect condition. The guy is happy because with the death of his mate will have more demonic energy for them, and with the sacrifice he brought, they will be baptized. The guy, when he sees weird, Kanchio asks if he killed his partner to have more power, but Kanchio mentions before running away that he must be careful with the sacrifice. The guy, when he enters, takes the sacrifice to the guild leader, and he tells him to do it, bring it immediately, since they did not have much time left. When they were getting closer, everyone began to praise. Andres was happy because he had many followers who were players who did whatever it took to have power. Taking off his mask, he was ready to start the spiritual. And he mentions that the greater the desire of his followers for having power, his body is demonized more and more. Kanchiel to baptize him, but one says that he refused to participate in the ritual, so the guild leader decides that he is not going to baptize anyone himself. He tells his followers that if they want to be baptized they must bring their own sacrifices, and since that sacrifice does not it had owners, he was going to keep it. At that moment, he begins the ritual where, having many magical stones, he thinks, perform more rituals and thus get more demonic energy through the crack that is in front of them. When they are absorbing the energy, he was being careful because if he does something wrong he could die, but in order not to get to that he decides send that energy to the sacrifice to then drink its blood from. Okay, and one is surprised since the sacrifice is enduring a lot of demonic energy in his body. This makes him happy since he will be able to drain a lot of demonic energy from body of the sacrifice. But in that he wonders why the sacrifice does not stop absorbing demonic energy. Very altered, he was yelling to stop absorbing demonic energy, where when he finished absorbing that energy the sacrifice turns out to be bald field. When he loves the ritual he asks to do it again, but an angry for that he begins to do it, attack with his abilities, but Campos without problems manages to evade all those attacks, and when receiving an attack he could not pierce the power of Kango's iron wall. The followers of a begin to attack the field from behind, but without any problem, he defeats the followers, leaving them on the ground. Very confident, he tells him that he was going to attack him with his hellfire from hell, but they run down. He is shown that his hellfire was far more powerful. He was sure that he couldn't get over something like that, so kneeling down, he calls Kango the incarnation of Antrazol. Seeing Dian like this, they begin to imitate him, and Campo, seeing that he was not so stupid using his power from heaven, said that he is Andra. The king of all demons orders adoption to dismiss all his followers as he wants to speak alone with him, and when he is there he tells him to stop calling him back because he knows it's not the Kango. He asks him how he learned to create a crack with the magic stones and says that he learned it when they preached it. He tells him that one day a guy in a demon mask told her that she could get eternal life if she joined the demon religion and camp. Angrily, he asks him why he accepted. He answers that he is masked, he was very powerful, so they preached him to the strength, and from that day on he did not see him again because he receives his orders by mail. Field decides to take importance to that cult of demonic religion, for which he orders him to give him the letters with the orders of the masked man. When reading the letter, this one said to get followers to be able to become a demon, and thinks that there must be more predicates since with that they will be able to increase their forces. Field was very angry because they want to turn the earth into hell. For what orders Adium to investigate that demonic religion, also not to perform those rituals anymore, and finally not to talk to anyone about what happened. And being alone, you wonder what the government is doing to avoid realizing the demonic religion. Although he knows that he can be discovered by the government, he decides to investigate on his own as well. Getting home, Hansel was very worried since he did not answer her calls. but Kango tells her that he was busy and being calm he is going to prepare dinner and that she tells him that she already got her second awakening, getting a rank B skill called Blessing of Light. This makes him happy since if Hanseo makes it a group, she tells him that they will be far superior to other groups, and she tells him that many guilds are calling her but he wanted to be of help to Field, but Field tells him that it is not a good idea making Hansel sad and this because if you join a group you won't be able to have serious battles with weak people. Field tells you to form a group with someone who is going to introduce him so that he becomes strong and so in the future the three of them can go to a higher gate. Rango this makes Hanseo happy since even Campo is going to sponsor him, and she very happily prepares a very rich meal for him with premium ingredients. Field when eating that swears it will save the earth from demonic religion at any cost, whatever it takes for Hanseo to continue preparing that kimchi shigai. The next day he goes to the support center of players to collect their C rank player card, but had to wait another day as they were improving their card. When leaving the Kango support center as he could not go to the doors he decides to take a break, and when at first he wanted to read novels or see mangas, but he decides to change his lifestyle when he sees a PC room and decides to enter, where he gets to play LOL even though he doesn't know what to do while ordering food. He didn't realize that his classmate group in the Lolo was insulting multiple times for not being playing and that a girl behind him begins to scream for losing in the game, and the girl seeing the Field screen realized that he was the person who did it. Losing, the girl approaching begins to attack him because besides she was angry, but Field dodged each of his attacks, asking him why the girl was attacking him. When he stopped he asks if he was from the guild Mir, but Kango says no, belongs to no guild. She doesn't believe him because someone like that should be in a guild, and she reveals that she is from the guild Red Rose Guild, but later he regrets it since that must have been a secret. Field without paying attention to him he was going to go, but when she thinks that it is a rank she does not believe that she is not in a guild, but shows her card which was a rank. Surprising the girl wonders if he really is a rank since she should have defeated him a while ago, and Field says goodbye when he sees the clueless woman in the distance, wonders if it could be, but they don't tell us what it could be. And when he was leaving the field he saw that he was weak, although he could fight since he has many years of experience in that, but when he was fighting with the girl there was a moment when she left him without field of vision, so he wonders who is she. On the other hand, being alone, she makes a call where we see that her name was Junin and she asks to be connected with human resources. After a while Ableumbo, the human resources leader of the guild of the Red Rose, which asks her what, and she asks him to investigate something for her, and Smoke asks if it is about the demonic religion, but she, not being sure, tells him that perhaps because the person seems to hide his identity, making the suspect the person was Field, and she didn't think it was a range, so Jumbo, he thinks that Singing is one of the people who only kill ranges of the same level, and tells him which field he managed to dodge all the attacks that she gave, surprising Jimbo because there was no one from the demonic religion that could plant him. Face to Junin when remembering the fight, remember that Kango had very good reflexes, so he thinks which field is the leader of the demonic religion. Although they were not sure about it, they decide to investigate Kango, and this worries everyone. Yunin, since it seems that the demonic religion was getting serious, but one thing was sure, which was that Field was stronger than her, and then thinking that it can't be someone from the demon religion she wonders if she could beat him in the same way, because as long as Kango exists, she will not be able to maintain her position as a higher ranked player. All of Korea upon returning to the game room is too angry to see that he dropped to bronze rank and lol, promising to find Campo to kill him for having made him lose. The next day he goes to a Rango dungeon. But the security don't let it pass because this was prohibited, because when the final bosses appear of the dungeons, hunters are forbidden to enter the solitary field. He is happy since he will be able to fight against a final boss, and thus the hunters begin to form Kango groups, find a way to enter just because the security, they were doing a strict inspection on that. Seeing how some hunters were afraid, he came up with a plan. Evil to be able to enter when approaching a hunter, he places the power of rage, and he begins to make a rampage, cursing monsters. The hunters who lost their family members because of angry monsters, they force their way into the Campo dungeon. Taking advantage of the distraction, he enters the dungeon alone and meets a vast desert. As it was big, he doesn't know where to look, but when he sees the system he sees that it has a little demonic power, so when using the demon asteroid he uses the power of observation, being able to see all the corners of the desert. A short time later he manages to find it, but the problem is that there were a lot of monster soldiers in that. Hunters appear and decides to use them to kill the soldiers while he leaves for the final boss. When he arrives, uses a demonic ability and defeats the final boss of a move going up to level 4, but is disappointed as he doesn't endure a hit and wonders why a rank B monster was so weak in that when looking at the system, he realizes that the monster was not weak, but he was stronger than he thought at first. He was going to hunt as safe as possible, but as things have become different, he thinks of changing his plan. When the trolls see him, they begin to attack him, but the field of a single move defeats them, splitting them in half. As the power of their blades increased, it will cause explosions. Internal when he uses them with his demonic energy. When he is using his special abilities a lot, he gets a accurate and detailed ability of Rango. When using the ability, drops a drop to the ground which begins to surround. All the trolls try to escape with fear, but blades come out of the ground cutting all the trolls. Trolls then starts using the power of gluttony, but only manages to go up 2 in his demonic energy stats. It seems strange to him, but he remembers that the stronger he gets, the more difficult it will be for him to level up, as he lacks 4 more levels for his 4th awakening. He leaves to continue hunting more. On the other hand, the hunters do not. They found no troll, so they decided to leave the dungeon. Campos stealthily joins the trolls. Hunters, and when they leave all angry, they claim because they did not find any boss and that the body arrives they will see with the Commander Guayin, who silences them to give them some information. She says that cow hunters have been appearing at gates of range, so they are going to inspect everyone in the field. She is worried that they will discover it, but he was looking for those who were on his Kango research list, so they wouldn't suspect he wanted to help in the investigation. Thanks him for the intention, but does not accept it because it was not his job, and while it is worth giving some advice to be a better field hunter, putting everything together, he realizes that the government is investigating the demonic religion, but he decides to leave it after a few days. Ancio, they know each other because he presented them he wanted them to. The two form a group to make them strong, and then begin to explain how their ancient abilities work. He could heal and protect at the same time, surprising that since almost no one is able to do that with those skills. He could enter any guild, but Ancien was not going to go to a guild for the moment. Changing the subject, Tiso him reports that they have found 2 amazing people who can join them. They were both barely in the second wake up, but they were very talented, and he plans to introduce them to the field. Then these 2 start flirting, but going on to the important thing, everyone decides to go to a distant dungeon. This because there was the incident of the lizardmen, and they are going to go to another dungeon to accelerate their growth with everything. Of course they were going to go the next day, but Kango was not going to stop because he is going to level in a dungeon as he is close to his 4th awakening. He uses the power of observation and find trolls, killing them without problems, in that he feels the aroma of human blood, so he decides to go since the amount he smells is of a massacre. As the final boss has not appeared yet, most likely it is that they have been killed by hunters. When he arrives, he sees that the blood was fresh, so the murderer must have to be close and decides to look for it, and that a hound from hell appears, surprising the protagonist, and wonders like a demon is on earth. Before continuing, do not forget to comment, like and subscribe, since that is the best way to support the channel. If you like this type of summaries, in the description I leave you more summaries for that you see them after this video. However, the hound begins to attack him, and Field of Pure Luck managed to deflect it with his steel blades, but since the hound was very tough he could not hurt him, so he decides to use the power of the spear. Dark with that weapon manages to seriously injure him, but the hound continues to attack to the point of managing to corner Field as he was losing the power of the earth, causing him to fall, and taking advantage of that he attacks his head with the throw, but it is useless as the hound keeps getting up and using a skill starts attacking him again by using the demon Bapometus to the force of 1,000, with which he knocks down the hound with a single blow. Although still the hound rises, and as a dog bow married many hounds in hell, he was sure to win. However, the hound not being able to continue, he dies, so the field level increases by 5. As he reached level 30, he obtains his 4th awakening, and he gets the special ability of the 4th awakening. That ability allows him to better control his energy. Demonic also hide it so that others do not notice it, then wonders how a demon could get to earth, and he had several questions, but he leaves it for the moment. Then he uses the power of gluttony on the hound, and now he plans become stronger than he was in hell. When he gets out of the dungeon, he thinks of going to the house, but he has an apparition greeting him, but Field does not remember her. She introduces herself as the leader of the Red Rose Guild, wears a surprising him. He remembers that he was very strong. Explains that he knows everything about him because he investigated him, and knows that he disappeared for 5 years, as everything shows that he does not use a false identity. Kango had talent as a hunter for quickly rising to rank C. That's why he has a wants to sponsor the protagonist, but he is surprised since he thought that he would invite him to his guild, but Jian was not going to let in someone suspicious who he grows up fast and hides his true field powers. He doesn't understand why he wants to sponsor him. Yule explains that by growing pace he will become very powerful, He also tells you about the benefits of sponsorship as he will be helped by the Red Rose Guild in many ways, such as receiving a gate pass that allows you to enter any dungeon of certain rank among other things, but that was not going to be free since they will assign you tasks and they needed your help in a mission in a specific field. Asks him for details of that mission, but he could not tell him anything, so he decides not to ask more. He accepts his offer, and if later he sees that the mission is ridiculous, he plans to refuse when the time comes. Moment Field asks why he can't tell the information about the mission since he is strong enough, explains that it is not because it is weak, it is because they still do not have solid evidence so that they can speak. Field decides not bother her more, and as a first benefit she asks to have a team, so they go to the guild as it was far they were going. Go in Jean Yu's car, and the protagonist is surprised since it was a very expensive car. Then he arrives at the guild where Kango is. Glad you accepted the offer as the benefits will help you a lot when you get and meet the resource leader, Jumbo Humans, and the Munio commander, in which he already begins to look at him badly as the two already know that he accepted the offer. They were going to take them to the guild warehouse so that he could choose his equipment. He decides to accompany them because he wants to see what kind of human he was. Our protagonist, when he arrived, look at teams of very high ranks, but he could only choose teams that did not exceed epic rank. If you wanted legendary rank equipment you had to pay millions of won, and so these two start talking. World gets angry since Kambo does not show when talking to Jian, so he orders him to use honorifics, but our protagonist everything. Capo didn't want to do it, and Mundia, very angry, pulls out his weapon to launch an attack. Jean Yu stops the attack and he orders that he not meddle in his business, so Moononoid stops. Then Field, in a very quote-unquote way friendly, asks him to lend him a unique range equipment. With that, Munian gets more angry, so he launches another attack, but leads a new one. Stops that attack as he disobeyed his order, warns him that the next time he will discipline him for what that. Maiyan asks for forgiveness. Then when looking for the equipment, Kango asks for an armor that is flexible, so he has a start to search, but in that world he asks for a duel where if he defeated him, he would give him his armor that was of single rank. Angry now if she was going to beat him to death, but the protagonist stops her since she was going to accept that fight. It worries because although the field is strong and later on it was going to be, it was not at the Geo level since it was from level 67 having a 7th awakening. But very excited Field did not get upset. I was going to make him respect the guildmaster because for him she was his savior when the monsters appeared had saved him, and since that day he had sworn allegiance to him when he came to. I didn't fight in the training room, but the protagonist had already made his decision as he was confident. Gives 3 seconds advantage, but Kango wanted him to take out his sword. Maiyan didn't want to because he saw useless to use it with a inferior range, for which Campos is going to fight by using the power of the speed of a kick that sends him flying. In addition, he had done a lot of damage to the armor. Thinking that he cheated, he begins to insult him because a hunter beginner shouldn't be so powerful. Field laughing, he starts to make fun because now that he is defeating him, he begins to slander him as he wanted to make a fool of himself in front of Jean Yu. He begins to use a skill of Field Sword. Laughs again as he is shouting the name of his ability. Upset, launches his ability. Kango accepts that Manga is someone strong, but does not consider it necessary to fight against the front, so using the power of the Shadow Eva from the attack and gets behind when using the shadow movement. Then with the power of the pulse he defeats him from humiliating way, showing that he is much stronger than before. As he was leaving, Kango was happy with his armor and Jean Yu apologizes for what just happened. He was also going to expel Munian from the guild and warn the from the guild so that it does not happen again later. As the armor was very large, he leaves it in the guild to be reformed at his measure and leaves. He is surprised since the course exceeded his expectations and affirms that he will become a world-class qualifier. The world classifiers are the 8 best hunters on the planet, and in Korea there was not yet one. However, there were rumors that the number 1 hunter Kang is going to become one. But even the ruling. Then comes Yumbo, who he was worried about the expulsion of but she explains that he asked for it. Changing the subject, she informs him that the government successfully planted a spy in the demonic religion if things went well, and they will get information about. They order him to continue investigating more. On the other hand, Kango was checking his stats and he was going to improve the demonic energy more, but he was not going to stop improving the other stats because he doesn't want to rely only on his demonic power. As his demonic energy doesn't improve, he didn't know what was going on since his demonic energy stat was high. Putting it all together, he thinks level 30 doesn't raise his energy stat. that have already been increased, but he doesn't worry, since he exceeded the range he wanted and now he thinks about reach his 5th awakening. The next day all meet in the agreed dungeon, and Tiso presents to the 2 hunters mentioned by the first huntress one day when she sees that very pretty Anseols, begins to take pictures with her to show them off. The second hunter as he is level 12, and when he woke up for the first time he obtained a skill of Rango. For his part was a magician with a special ability of Rango by an animated personality. The protagonist, upon seeing as he was someone strong and educated, he thinks he is the main character of a manhwa, while he thinks they are people reliable since he does not perceive evil desires like other hunters. The group having good hunters in different areas makes it a group with the best field combinations. I was going to go with them, but I would only help them if they were in danger, not to hinder their growth. Once inside, the dungeon begins and brings that went from tank stopping trolls attacks sends use powerful magic lures trolls to ambush between all while falling alone protects makes a better Tiso force with a skill and then starts attacking with his bow. According to his part, he defeats many trolls with his sword without problems since before he had as a hobby kendo. After a while everyone as a team defeats the trolls and asks the field how they did it. Sincere Field responds that they must fix many things, so he begins to give them advice given that he should control his enormous strength as he wastes it using even on the weakest trolls. If he kept it up when he ran out of strength, he was going to charge, and on the other hand, Anseol did well until that, but then he shouldn't have attacked because if the trolls focus on the healer the tanks will have to work harder. Send also used a lot of power hunting weak monsters, so he just shouldn't use his power much. The last one is Eigen, but there was nothing to him fix him since he fulfilled his role impeccably. Field seeing how good he is, he thinks that according to he is a genius for what is wondering how powerful it will become. After all the talk they enter the forest more to try those tips, and so another fight begins again. Kango congratulates them because they improved, but a monster appears surprising the Prota because he was a demon. The demonic wolf attacks that, so Kambo was going to help him, but as he goes ahead, wounding the wolf, but the demonic wolf as if nothing hit him sending him flying and launches to kill him without. Field however arrives by defeating the wolf in one hit, and the system tells him that he defeated a Canwald Rift fragment. Not knowing what crack fragment means, he leaves it for the moment to help. According to the protagonist, he is already surprised, which according to he is abnormally powerful because he was able to fight with a demonic monster as he is interested in. He decides to investigate it, so when he touches it, he uses his omniscient power to see his statistics. Campos is surprised since he had the powers of the god of martial arts and was a triple rank S. Plus he was the hero who would become in the protector of the world, and literally as he was a protagonist as his existence is threatening he thinks become his comrade by giving him support like Jean Yu does, but he had to be careful because he could betray him, although he does not seem like that type of person. However, so that this does not happen, he thinks of doing something, and then they begin to talk about how they did the house well. Tae-so advises him to enter the Mirror Guild, but the annoying one tells him never he would enter that guild, given that when he sees that he has a problem with that guild, he asks for forgiveness and also for having reacted, so then they decide to leave him to get married the next day. However, this time Campo was not going to accompany them to the leave. Anseol wanted to go to the house with the field, but when he had things to do he asked him to go ahead. Ansol sad. He leaves and starts his plan to relate to him, so he goes to see him at a stop as what he wanted to say was private, takes him to a dark alley, and without further ado punches him in the belly as he doesn't know why he does it. But Kanwalbi on top congratulates him because he will become someone very strong for what he wants to become his between quotes comrade, and according to then he asks him why he is attacking him, but unanswered. Field goes through his body for his heart and begins to use his subordination power, with that envelops his heart with an aura demonic, and the protagonist begins to tell him what he will do from now on. Also there was no need to worry because he is helping to grow because they are in quotes comrades. According to when he wakes up he doesn't remember that Kango attacked him, and he gets depressed since he thinks that he has lost consciousness because he is weak. He wants to become strong because he wants to cut the throat of the master and vice master of the guild. Looked on the other hand, the system reports that as he became his subordinate and now Field only awaits its growth, but still has no intention of becoming the owner of, according to, since only his. As a precaution after that, as he gets stronger, he will become someone strong as a bullet whose existence was crucial for him since the Myriad Demon Palace is still closed and he will need help when fighting the demons. Cambo now he will support him so that he becomes very strong, because later he plans to use it for that he receives a call of auction who tells him that he found a trace of demonic energy, but it did not appear to have been created by a being human, so surely it was made by a demon. As Field wanted to go hunting him, He asks the address in this. I was in a rank B dungeon at that. Remember when killing demons the system called them rift fragment. With different ranks the demon wolf when appearing in a ranked dungeon had that same rank, and the same happened with the hellhound. Then the new demon was very strong, and the protagonist is excited as he will reach the 5th. Wake up faster. The next day arrives in the city where the dungeon was, but hears that they are not letting nobody in since a monster with an unknown mutation appeared, so they closed the dungeon. Temporarily the hunters complained for not letting them pass, but in that they heard that 10 hunters had already dead. Most start to worry because that amount of dead was high for a rank B field dungeon, since knows that that monster was a demon and wonders what kind of demon will look like as the reporters make it out to be. They ask the same thing. They ask the security about the monster. They tell them that they only know that it looks like a lion, and Field realize that the demon was the boar. He is one of the strongest predators of the second hell and looks like a lion having 5 legs. Boar had a special rank that is full stomach, which only gives him allowed to eat 5 prey a day. Then having a full stomach did not attack, but when hunting was the incarnation of sheer terror, as there were already 10 victims. He should have appeared 2 days ago, but Cambo plans to hunt him down without fear of success. In wanting to enter, he calls for her to help him in some way, but she tells him that it will cost him a lot of Field. He accepts. Talking on the phone with the security, and the reporters are surprised to finish. The security allows him to enter but had to share information if he defeats that monster. The protagonist accepts, giving a few words. Emotional, and the reporters begin to take photos for their newscasts, but that's when those from the Mirror Union arrive, who, seeing that one with a red rose was going to enter, they also asked to enter. They heard that the field was sponsored by a rose red since his unique rank armor confirmed it, but they begin to make fun of the Red Rose sponsorship since they sent alone without any teammate. The protagonist explains that he is a loner, that is why he did not accept a group, but this guy named Zoom just starts insulting since he thinks he only wants to be famous when he kills the monster, and warns him that he will die if he trusts himself too much. That is why he offers him that they all enter what he wants. Kanto accepts, saying that he did not want to enter alone. The protagonist accepted, since there are many people he plans to use them for him to fill his stomach with them. A few minutes before, the Vice Guild Master Mir had ordered him to humiliate publicly since he wanted to show that the Meyer Guild was more than the Red Rose Guild, since both guilds did not meet. They get along well. Zoom just expected him to accept and decide to accompany him, because if he retracts it will damage his image as a hunter. They without further ado begin to enter the dungeon, and everyone is surprised since the rival guilds were cooperating. Zum only understands as Red Rose was sponsoring Kango because for him he was only a loser. However, Kango already I had everything planned so that they are the food of the boar, and thus they enter the dungeon where he thinks to search for the chief of the lizardmen to absorb a stone higher ranking magic, and that hears the voice of Tiso, which was having a problem with these two guys in field to the approaching. He wondered what that thief class person lying on the ground was doing, complaining to those two for having attacked a member of their own group, and the two upset thought to lure the lizardman field Vegeta that was betrayed, and the rumored players were actually those two people. One starts attacking Tiso, causing him to back up, surprising the guy to see that Tiso was able to resist his attack, and Tiso, using more force, does not think giving up so easily. The other congratulates him because he had awakened a higher rank special ability, but since it wasn't his third awakening could not beat them, and the guy thinks of attacking him, but they couldn't get to kill him. Field wonders because they can't kill him, and he had doubts if he should help him or not. But when he saw demonic energy and a weapon of the guy stands in front of them, Calculus asks who they are, but they just make fun of him when they see that he is a beginner, and they plan to kill Kango because they already fulfilled their quota, which was to kidnap Ties today. A thief very fast guy approaches to kill Kango, but with a single slap he sends him flying. The other asks him what it had happened, but before he can answer, Kango stands in front of the guy, starting to hit him several times. The other one approaches, knowing that his partner could die, but Campo with his art of destruction ability sends him flying, leaving him badly wounded. Campo, raising his head, asks where he got the demonic energy from, and the guy asks how he knows that, but Kango hitting him tells him that only he asks the questions. The guy, even if he hits him, he won't tell him who gave him the demonic energy, but Kango uses his power of fear ability to make him confess. The very upset guy, he begins to say that he was the leader of the guild, and the other told him that he shouldn't say that, but Bald sends him flying so that he doesn't keep bothering him. He asks the name of his guild, and the guy tells him that he is from the Andras Guild and his master had given him the demonic energy using a ritual. Field asks what ritual, but the guy doesn't I wanted to tell him, so Campo again uses the power of fear to make him speak, but when he was about to confess, he ends up dying, and he thinks they put a device inside the guy so he won't talk about the rituals, where he then asks how he could defeat him if he was a rank N when he saw him, but Kango tells him that he is a rank superior who was watching Rango's door and the two thanked Campo for having saved him and Soul. He assures that he will return the favor in the future after learning that the guild previously had the players out. I was planning to report it to the body, which is a unit of players under government control, to investigate the Andre's guild. Immediately Kango tells him not to report anything since he is only going to take care of the Androsite guild, that he accepts since it is about the field in that it is that kneeling. He tells him that he wants to accompany him on his trip since he has fallen in love with his sense of justice field. Seeing him so rare, he compares him with Balak for how he behaves, and the other thanks him for his help, telling him that he will definitely repay his help in the future. Kanjo Al, seeing him well, remember that he was the thief class who could not join a group, and that is saying that it is fate proposes form a group between the three of them. The other appreciates that gesture, but for the moment wants to leave to become stronger already, that currently it would only be a burden for the two of them. Kango was half happy to have people who are in debt with him, but now he wonders what he will do. Tell him that, so he first asks him what his level is. That he tells him who is level 12, having his second awakening not too long ago, and the ability of his first awakening is Rango. See, his second special ability of his second awakening was Rango, surprising Kango since there is that he had a lot of potential than he thought. Kango asks him why he doesn't join a guild if it's very promising, and that's it. He tells him that he was still thinking of joining now that he met the field. He decided to follow him instead of joining a guild. Field decides to take him with him since his third and fourth awakening can be of a very high rank, in that he also remembers that they have Seal is very soon to get his second awakening. So at the time of exchanging numbers, Campo asks for a favor that he level up with Hans, who was of the healing class, and at the end of the talk, T asks him if he is going to the Antraso guild, and then they skip a few minutes where we see Kango waking up the other guy who was called Kanchiel because he is going to ask him several questions. Field asks him because they wanted to capture Tiso and the other guy, but Kanchio tells him that he doesn't remember doing that. Kango kicks him in the face, sending him to fly and Kanch so that they do not continue hitting him. He tells him that they wanted to capture them to offer them as sacrifices, and in that field remember that Taehyun wanted to offer his sister as an offering. In that field he was. Something happens for which he asks Kanchio for a favor. After a while, we see Kanchio go to a place with a suitcase, and this guy asks him where his partner was. He tells him that they killed him. Where then, very scared, he gives him the sacrifice which was in the suitcase, and the guy asks him how he could die if they only went to Adora. Range of search tells him that there was a high rank player, so they could barely kill him. And when he opened the suitcase, the guy sees that the sacrifice was in perfect condition. The guy is happy because with the death of his mate will have more demonic energy for them, and with the sacrifice he brought, they will be baptized. The guy, when he sees weird Kanchio, asks if he killed his partner to have more power, but Kanchio mentions before running away that he must be careful with the sacrifice. The guy, when he enters, takes the sacrifice to the guild leader, and he tells him to do it, bring it immediately, since they did not have much time left. When they were getting closer, everyone began to praise. Andres was happy because he had many followers who were players who did whatever it took to have power. Taking off his mask, he was ready to start the spiritual. And he mentions that the greater the desire